Jury, my bailiff is passing out notepads. I am going to allow you to take notes during this trial. Over the course of the next few days, you are allowed to take notes. You do not have to take notes. If you do take notes, I would encourage you and implore you to not let it distract you. I'm the kind of person, I don't take very many notes. Some people take lots of notes. Either thing is fine, but the main job you have is to listen to the evidence, view the evidence, listen to the testimony. So don't get caught up in your notepad. Take notes to help you potentially refresh your recollection at the end of the case. Again, you don't have to, but make sure you're listening to the witnesses. State's first witness.
Your Honor, the state calls Officer Kremservoa.
Fine.
You solemnly swear the testimony you give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Please be seated, state your full name, spelling and last for the record.
Officer, you can take off your mask if you're comfortable with that.
Thank you. I am Detective Esther Kremserova, Detective Esther Kremserova, spelling E-S-T-E-R, last name Kremserova.
State can proceed.
Thank you. How are you employed?
Currently, since September of last year, I am employed as a detective for the Milwaukee Police Department, but I've been employed with the Milwaukee Police Department since December of 2014.
Okay. And prior to becoming a detective, how were you employed?
As a police officer,
And where were you assigned?
District 1 during this incident.
Okay. Now, I want to draw your attention specifically to September 22nd of 2020. Were you assigned to District 1 back then?
Yes,
Okay. And on that date, were you, along with other officers, dispatched to kind of that area of Holton and Brady?
yes,
All right. Why were you sent there?
for a shooting.
And when you arrived on scene, what, if anything, did you see?
I saw that the Milwaukee Fire Department was on scene, and I also saw the victim.
Okay. Now, I want to draw your attention specifically, and I'm just going to get this ready here. Your Honor, I have evidence control.
Yes, you do. For the jury, as you can see, there's two screens. You should be able to see either or both of them. If you need to lean forward, lean back, adjust so you can see the screens, please do that.
I want to show you what has been marked as State's Exhibit number 31. If we're looking at State's Exhibit number 31, is that kind of a diagram that shows the general area of what we're talking about?
Yes,
Okay. Now, you get that back. Thank you very much. I'm going to place 31 on the big screen. And if we're looking at 31, and I'm just going to kind of zoom in for a little bit. If where we're seeing right here is Brady, and then this is Holton, and kind of goes over Water Street, is that correct?
yes,
Okay. Is this location that we're referring to, is this in the city and county of Milwaukee, state of Wisconsin?
yes,
All right. Now, you indicated that when you arrived on scene, you saw the fire department doing something. What was that?
they were conducting life-saving measures on the victim.
Can you just say that again a little louder?
They were doing life-saving measures on the victim.
And that's later determined to be Jason Clearman, is that correct?
Yes,
Okay. Did he survive his injuries?
he did not.
All right. So when you first arrived on scene, where was he situated? How was he laying?
He was actually positioned towards the top of the stairs.
Okay. And you're referring to the stairs that we Talking about this kind of like little ladder thing where we can see the 1, the 2, the 3, kind of in that area?
Yes.
Okay. And how was he situated near the top of the stairs, officer?
He was face down.
Now, while you were present and he was face down, did the fire department or anybody do anything?
Yes.
What did they do?
They moved the victim on a more level surface of the concrete, and they turned him over on his back so they can do CPR.
Were those successful?
No.
He died.
Yes.
Okay. When they turned him over, could you see if he had any injuries?
Yes.
What was that?
A gunshot wound to, at the time, to the face, to the head.
Okay. Were you wearing a body camera?
I was.
Okay. And I'm going to, just for one moment. Your Honor, I have State's Exhibit number 83 currently set up into the system. The court will bear with me since we have antiquated equipment. I'm moving from the Elmo to my computer. Hopefully this will work. One moment. For the record, I've been told just picking it up and putting it back down sometimes clears it. And it does. Now, detective or officer, when we're looking at this, you watch your body cam, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And as we can see, there's 20 minutes, 46 seconds that was on your body cam, right?
Yes.
All right. Now, going to approximately 1 minute and 2 seconds into your body camera. You've watched this, is that correct?
Yes.
Is this a fair and accurate copy of that recording of what had happened when you went to the scene at that moment?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, I will be playing the portion of Detective Krem-Servoa, her body cam, which is labeled Krem-Servoa IR 202660171 for purposes of the record, starting at 1 minute and 2 seconds into the recording.
Fine.
And I'm going to put the volume on. And pausing at 1 minute and 43 seconds. Does that portion reflect and show them both the manner in which the victim was first found and then the fire department moving?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, the state would move those portions of State's Exhibit number 83 that were played into evidence at this time.
Any objection?
Brief sidewalks.
Well, the evidence is admitted. Go ahead.
Detective, I have one additional mask does not belong there. The one additional portion I'd like to talk about. While you were kind of along that railing area and watching what occurred, we could see that when they turned him over, like, what was in his pocket, in the victim's pocket?
A cell phone?
It appeared his cell phone was there, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, additionally, officer, sorry, detective, I keep demoting you. Did you observe any other potential piece of evidence that you kind of made sure that people were aware to stay away from?
Yes, I found a 9mm casing, spent casing on a sidewalk near the victim.
And made sure that that was where it was, and detectives come in, they take it from there. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. I have no further questions.
Cross.
Okay, Detective, I just had a few questions for you, just a couple. All right, so on that night, you were one of the first responding officers, right?
Yes.
Who were the other officers that responded with you? Were you the first one on the scene, or were there other officers there as well?
There were other officers. We kind of arrived at the approximate same time. And my partner was Officer Nebraska.
Okay. Officer Nebraska, what about Officer Darren?
He was there as well.
Okay, anybody else?
I believe Officer Michalik was there, and I wouldn't
Officer who?
Michalik.
You know how to spell that?
Yeah, it's Michalak.
Okay,
If I'm not mistaken.
all right, now, we had a chance to just see the body cam on the screen over there and over here. Did you review your body cam before you came to court today?
Not today. No, I didn't.
Have you seen it before?
Yes.
All right. And there on the body camera, we were able to see that it was pretty dark and there was flashlights being used, right?
Yes, I was one of the people that used the flashlight.
Okay. Do you remember what the lighting situation was in terms of the, I would guess, you know, the actual city or street lighting?
Not specifically, no.
Okay, but we could see on the camera that that staircase was dark, right?
I mean, it was nighttime.
Okay. And in order to illuminate anything, you had to use your flashlight.
When I arrive on scene and it's dark outside, we tend to use flashlights to, look around the area to potentially find evidence, etc.
Okay. Now, as far as your scope of investigation, were there any other tasks you had that night?
That night I remained with the evidence, which was the casing, and with the victim, which was nearby in the general same area.
Okay. All right, thank you, nothing further.
State of anything else?
No, thank you.
You can step down, detective. Thank you.
Thank you.
State's next witness.
State calls Detective Klabundi.
Fine.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
I do.
Please be seated. State your full name, spelling first and last for the record.
That's Alexander Klabundi, Alexander. Klabundi is Klabunde.
Detective, you can take your mask down if you're comfortable with that.
Thank you.
Take and proceed.
Thank you. How are you employed, sir?
As a detective with the City of Milwaukee Police Department.
How long have you been with the police department?
This is going into 18 years now.
And in terms of your assignment, where are you currently assigned?
The homicide unit.
How long have you been with the homicide unit?
Over 3 years.
Now, I want to draw your attention to the homicide of Jason Clearman that occurred on September 22nd of 2020. Did you work on that? And the area of around 1750 North Holton, or basically Holton and Brady, is that where you went?
Yes,
Is that in the city and county of Milwaukee and state of Wisconsin?
it is.
Are you familiar with the term scene detective?
Yes.
What is a scene detective?
Scene detective's responsibility is the scene investigation, documenting evidence recovered and observed at the scene.
And when you are looking at a scene or attempting to investigate a scene, is there anybody that assists you regarding that investigation?
I typically have a partner assisting me, yes.
And what about photographs? Is there anybody that assists you with that?
Yes, typically a police officer or forensic investigator assigned to the investigation, or, I'm sorry, they changed their name often, the identification division.
And basically they assist you out, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now, when you are doing your scene investigation, do you wait until every witness has been talked to, or do you kind of get in there and start trying to investigate that scene?
I typically am investigating the scene almost immediately after being briefed the basic information of the incident.
Okay. So, do you know always what is and what is potentially not involved in a homicide when you're doing your scene investigation?
Not always during the initial scene investigation.
Do you err on the side of caution sometimes when trying to find certain evidence?
Yes.
Now, detective, when you are doing your scene investigation, you see various potential things in an area, what do you do?
I would document them, where their location is. We have numbered markers that we will place for items that are going to be collected. And there are also stickers that can be used for different items, evidence that are being collected, as well as letters in certain situations. Typically, letters are used for blood sample collections or other sample collections.
Okay. Now, detective, I want to draw your attention to State's Exhibit number 31 that we see here currently on the big screen. I'm going to kind of fill that up there. Do you recognize what we're looking at here?
I do.
What is this?
This is a diagram of the scene, a computer-generated diagram of the scene.
And if we're looking at the scene investigation or the scene map as to what we're looking at here, was this created based on your scene investigation?
Yes, it was.
Okay. And in terms of what we're looking at here and based on this, is this a fair and accurate kind of representation of where things were and where you found them?
Yes, it's not to exact measurements. It's just general area where the evidence was located that day.
Now, detective, or at this point, Your Honor, state would move State's Exhibit number 31 into evidence.
Any objection? Fine, received.
Your Honor, I have a copy for the court as well as copies for the jury, if I may hand them out.
It's fine. Any objection? No. Fine.
Now, Detective, I kind of want to walk through this scene in just a little bit as regards to some photos and talk about what we have here, but just so we orient ourselves. If we're looking here on Holton and Brady, Water, Pearson, is this kind of how these streets all interact with each other?
Yes, and it should be noted, Holton Street, as it starts north of Brady, becomes a bridge crossing the Milwaukee River. So where Water Street is, it's actually running below Holton Street.
Okay. And just kind of like, what's underneath Holton or kind of in this area by Water Street that we see underneath the bridge?
Once you go past North Water Street, there's a park called Swing Park. It has a bunch of suspended swings hanging from the bridge, and then there's what's termed a marsupial bridge that's a footpath bridge below the Holton Street Bridge that continues to the opposite side of the river.
Okay, and if we're seeing here, it says not drawn to scale, right?
Correct.
Okay. And then the N with an arrow pointing north, what does that show us, Detective?
It indicates that north on this map is towards the top of the map.
Okay. And just so everyone can figure this out, but if north is to the top of the map, east would be to the right as we're looking at it.
Correct.
West to the left, south to the bottom.
That's all correct.
Okay. Now, Detective, I want to show you what has been marked as State's Exhibit number 1. Do you recognize that?
I do.
What is that?
It's a photograph taken during the scene investigation. This would be taken from Holton Street, and the angle would be southeast.
So when you're saying southeast, if we kind of look beyond where these trees are, kind of in there, is that looking towards that intersection of Holton and Brady?
Yes.
Now, I'd like to show you what has been marked as State's Exhibit number 2. Do you recognize that?
I do. Another photograph taken during the scene investigation. This one is looking generally east.
And kind of just from the same same general area, but just at a different angle, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. In particular, we're going to come back to this, but this vehicle that we see that is kind of by the bike lane area off of on the street side, is that going to be the victim's vehicle?
Yes.
Okay. We'll come back to that in a minute. Now, I want to show you what has been marked as State's Exhibit number 3. What is that?
Another scene photograph, again, from a closer viewpoint towards that sidewalk near where it's a Kia that we had just indicated in the previous photo.
Okay. And then I kind of want to just talk a little bit about what we're discussing here. First of all, we can see what appears to be a yellow tarp covering something. What is that?
So that's a yellow tarp covering the body of Jason Clearman.
Okay. And if we're looking at this, we can see the sidewalk. Then eventually there's kind of like this little wall here, right, separating the street from the sidewalk?
Correct. It's a concrete barrier that seems to be designed to prevent vehicles from striking any pedestrians on the curve of this bridge.
Okay. And if where the victim's body is, what's there?
So where you can see that there's a metal fence along the edge there as the bridge begins, and there's a inset where the victim's body is. It's a landing towards the top of a staircase that then leads down north towards Water Street below.
Now, additionally, these are going to come into play here, but we see this little yellow marker number 3 kind of stacked on a bunch of them. What happens with these yellow photo markers as you start getting into this case?
So those markers are set where items of evidence are observed in order to mark for the photographs for them to be easily seen.
And this is just kind of, it's being pre-positioned, getting ready to go, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. I want to show you what has been marked as State's Exhibit number 4. What are we looking at here?
This is another photograph of Mr. Clearman's body. The tarp was partially removed from his body in this photograph.
Now, I want to be very clear about this, detective. When you arrived on scene, was he already in this location?
He was at that location with the yellow tarp over him, laying on his back as he's depicted in this picture.
And so this is the manner in which you encountered him?
Yes.
Okay. So if he had been down, kind of face down on the stairs or anything else, people had moved him by the time you got here and started having pictures taken?
That's correct.
Okay. And I want to kind of draw your attention just for one moment. We can kind of see some discolorization on the stairs. What is that, detective?
That appeared to be blood stains that collected on the top of the landing near Mr. Clearman's body.
I'm going to show you what has been marked as State's Exhibit number 5. What are we looking at here, detective?
This photograph is closer to Mr. Clearman's body, looking downwards towards the stairs that lead down towards Water Street, and there is additional blood on the top of those stairs, and then the top 2 stairs that led down.
And those top 2 stairs, I'm going to show you what has been marked as State's Exhibit number 6. Can we actually see how that blood was kind of pooling on the second stair down and going down? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, the state would move State's Exhibits numbers 1 through 6 into evidence at this time.
Any objection? They're received.
Now, detective, where do those stairs go?
They go down towards Water Street. I believe there's a sidewalk that leads at the bottom to Water Street.
I'm going to show you what has been marked as State's Exhibit number 7. Do we see those stairs continuing kind of down towards that area down south by Water, around by Swing Park?
Yes, this is just further down the staircase looking back towards Mr. Clearman's body.
Showing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit number 8. And does that show us kind of going all the way down to underneath that bridge?
Yes.
Your Honor, the state would move State's Exhibits number 7 and 8 in evidence.
Any objection? Fine, received.
Now, I'm going to show you what has been marked as State's Exhibit number 9. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
And in particular, we can see a photo marker has now been placed and is kind of in this area. You can see photo marker number 3. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. What was that photo marker number 3?
That marker number 3 was positioned next to a Google cell phone in a black case.
Okay. And if when we see from an officer or an officer's body cam that camera had been in the victim's front pocket, by the time you get there, it's already off to the side.
This phone, yes, this is the position that I encountered the phone in.
Now, I want to draw your attention to the defendant's left hand, showing you State's Exhibit number 10. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
What are we seeing there?
There appears to be blood on his left hand in this photograph.
Mr. Ewing said defendant. You mean Mr. Clearman?
Yes, Mr. Clearman. I'm showing you Mr. Clearman's left hand. I'm also going to show you Mr. Clearman's right hand in photo marker number 11. What do we see here?
There appears to be blood on this hand as well.
And as we're looking at 10 and 11, there appears to be blood in both hands.
Correct.
Okay. But specifically, if we're looking at at 11, the victim's right hand, this one appears to have more blood on the palm. Is that accurate?
Yes, there does seem to be a larger amount of blood on this hand than the opposite hand, and it seems to be concentrated on the palm.
Okay. Right hand, maybe if there was something or holding something, could explain how you get blood in the palm. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Overruled.
I can lay a foundation. Detective, you ever had a bloody nose?
Yes.
You ever held something up with your right hand?
Yes.
You ever gotten blood on your hand?
Yes.
Does that look like somebody who maybe be bleeding?
I believe that's possible, yes.
Could also be blood from being shot in the head, though, right?
I agree.
Okay. Now, detective, if we're looking at the left hand, here we see a little bit of blood on the inside palm, but in this case, the blood appears to be on the outside of the hand. Is that correct?
I agree.
Also, we're seeing things around kind of the thumb and around his hand. What does that look like?
It seems to be smaller droplets, similar to something being sprayed almost.
Sometimes referred to as blood splatter.
Sure. Yes.
But in fairness, you don't know how any of these blood got on any of these locations on his hands or on his body.
No, they were just there as you are seeing them when I arrived.
Your Honor, the state moves 9, 10, and 11 to that.
No objection.
Fine. Received.
Now, Detective, I want to show you what has been marked as State's Exhibit number 12. What are we looking at here?
This is a photograph of the sidewalk just to the west of Mr. Clearman's body. There's two evidence markers, number 1 and number 2. Number 1, there is a 9mm casing next to. And number 2, you can't see the item, but there is a plastic juice bottle that had been left there.
I'm going to show you what has been marked as State's Exhibit number 13, kind of from a different angle. Again, what was that photo marker number 1?
That's a 9mm fired casing.
Okay. And as we can we see where the victim's shoe kind of is?
Yes, that's Mr. Clearman's shoe.
Okay. And then, as we're seeing, photo marker number 2 is the bottle?
Yes.
All right. Now, Detective, I'm going to show you what has been marked as State's Exhibit number 14. What is State's Exhibit number 14?
That's a closer view of evidence marker number 1 in the 9mm casing that I had located.
I now want to show you what has been marked as State's Exhibit number 32. Why don't you take a look at that and tell me if you recognize it.
I do. It's a 9mm casing and the original packaging that I placed it in when I took it back to the Milwaukee Police Administration building and inventoried it.
Now, you just mentioned a number of different things there. I want to talk about how we can tell that this item of evidence came from the location we're talking about and is here in our hand. First of all, you mentioned inventory. What's an inventory number?
An inventory number is it's a number assigned to a report that is just documenting the Milwaukee Police taking custody of an item.
And is there any markings or anything on here that lets us know you're the one that was basically inventoried this?
There are. I initialed the tape where it was sealed.
And the inventory number lets us know item number 1 is photo marker number 1.
That's correct.
Okay, so we can see literally AK and then the inventory number and the date is written on this manila envelope. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, this manila envelope, is this what you originally packaged it in?
The manila envelope, yes.
All right. This plastic, does this let us know that another agency, for example, the crime lab, is taking a look at this?
Yes, I recognize that as the manner that the State Crime Lab repackages items after they've examined them.
All right. We have to wait to hear from them to find out what happened there, but this is the manner in which you found this cartridge casing that we see in photo marker number 1. Can you, based on everything we discussed, and there's all the hallmarks of this being, in fact, the 9mm cartridge casing you recovered?
Yes.
Your Honor, the state would move State's Exhibit number 32 and
Any objection?
No.
Received.
Thank you. Your Honor, the state would also move State's Exhibits numbers 12 through 14 in evidence.
No objection.
Received.
Now, I guess just briefly, looking at State's Exhibit number 15, what was it, photo marker number 2?
It's a plastic juice bottle. I think the brand was Juiced.
Again, don't know if it's relevant. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. Inventoried it, photographed it, put it on inventory.
Correct. It was one of the few items that were close to Mr. Clearman's body at the time.
Okay. Your Honor, the state would move State's Exhibit number 15 in evidence.
No objection.
Received.
Detective, did you also have the opportunity to look through and see if Mr. Clearman had anything in his pockets?
I was present when the forensic investigator from the Milwaukee County Medical Examiner's Office did go through his pockets.
For example, in State's Exhibit number 16 in the back pocket, what, if anything, was recovered?
Those are some U.S. currency.
Okay. And showing you what has been marked in State's Exhibit number 17.
A set of keys.
Okay. And in State's Exhibit number 18.
It was a set of a pair of earbuds and then a folding knife.
The state would move State's Exhibits number 16, 17, and 18 into evidence.
Received.
Now, Detective, I want to just kind of go back for one moment to the vehicle. We spoke a little bit about that. I'm showing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit number 19. Do you recognize that?
I do.
What is that?
It's a view of the front of a Kia Soul that I knew to, that Mr. Clearman had exited from.
Showing you what has been marked as State's Exhibit number 20. Do you recognize that?
The passenger side of that same vehicle.
And staying on that side, I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit number 21.
That's a closer view of the front passenger side of that vehicle.
Okay. Now, if we're looking at the front passenger side of the vehicle, specifically, I want to draw your attention to the front passenger door as well as the window. What, if anything, do you see there, Detective?
So I observed that the window is almost completely down, but still partially up, and there appeared to be blood on the top of the window. It seemed to be on like both sides and the top of the window.
Okay. I'm going to show you also what's been marked as State's Exhibit number 22, and we see that in a little bit better relief now of what appears to be blood kind of in the little spot there by the door and as well as on the window.
That's correct.
Your Honor, the state would move State's Exhibit numbers 19 through 22 in evidence at this time.
No objection?
Received.
Now, Detective, staying on this vehicle, going to the driver's side of this vehicle, showing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit number 23. Do you recognize that?
I do. It's the same Kia Soul we've observed with the driver's door open.
Okay. And if we're looking at State's Exhibit number 24, what do we see there?
A closer view from the open driver's door towards the passenger door.
Okay. And just so we kind of have a little bit of it, when we're looking at the passenger door now from the inside, Detective, what can we see what appears to be on the window and then also on the interior of the driver's side door?
I
Or
can
the
see-
passenger side door.
I'm sorry. On the passenger side door, I can see on the top of the door above the armrest near the window, there's some blood as well as still blood visible on the window.
Okay. I now want to show you what has been marked as State's Exhibit number 25. What are we looking at here, Detective?
It's another close view more towards the floorboard of the driver's side, like front seat of this vehicle.
And in particular, Detective, is there going to be anything of note that you observed down by the driver's side kind of area between the seat and the door well?
A pair of eyeglasses.
I'll show you what has been marked as State's Exhibit number 27. What is that?
That's the pair of eyeglasses.
Okay. And then showing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit number 28. What does that show us?
The same eyeglasses with evidence marker number 4 placed next to them.
Your Honor, the state would move State's Exhibits numbers 23 through 25, as well as 27 through 28.
Just one moment, Judge.
Just so everybody's aware, gave defense counsel the numbers of all of them, and they had previously seen all these photos.
Fine. There's no objection. They're received.
I want to show you now what's been marked as State's Exhibit number 26. What are we looking at here?
It's the rear driver's side, door opened in the rear driver's side passenger compartment of the vehicle.
Your Honor, the state moves 26 in evidence.
Any objection? Received.
Now, detective, in this vehicle, did you find any firearms?
No.
Did you find any weapons?
No.
Okay. Now, detective, additionally, I want to show you when you had the forensic investigator with you, did you also have them attempt to see if they could look at the front passenger door for any possible latent evidence?
I did. I requested that they examine that area for latent fingerprint evidence.
And why that area in particular?
I had been advised that the suspect involved in this incident had approached that portion of the vehicle prior to the shooting occurring.
At this point, when you guys are dealing with this, did you have any idea who the suspect was?
No.
Did you have any name?
No.
No one had called and said they'd been involved in this other than 911 callers calling for the victim?
Not correct. Not during the scene investigation.
Okay. Now, detective, showing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit number 29 and 30, were there possible latent prints that were found on that passenger side of the vehicle?
Yes, they're indicated by this evidence sticker marked number 2. And
One and two, is that correct?
correct. I didn't see 1 at first.
Do you see it now?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, the state would move 29 and 30 into evidence.
Any objection?
No.
Received.
And detective, just returning for one moment, if we are looking at the scene diagram, in fact, those evidence markers, those stickers 1 and 2 are on there, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. I now want to show you what has been marked as State's Exhibit number 84. 84. If we're looking at State's Exhibit number 84, detective, do you recognize what we see here?
I do. It's a variation of the scene diagram, this time used by using a Google map of the area of Holton and Brady Street.
Okay. Again, is this drawn to scale?
No.
Okay. But can we see where the vehicle, where Mr. Edgecombe's body was in relationship to Holton and Brady, generally speaking?
Generally speaking, yes.
Okay. And if we're looking at that, can we also see a Zanya's Pizza and a Casablanca amongst other potential buildings?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, the state would move 84 into evidence.
No objection.
Received.
Has a copy. I'm going to give the court a copy as well. And I have a copy for the jury, unless you guys have any issue. Is it okay?
I'll just hand it off to the jury.
Now, detective, in addition to what we've just discussed, are you familiar with the term pole camera? What's a pole camera?
A pole camera is a camera just mounted typically on a light pole or another type of pole elevated that casts a view of a street or other area.
Okay. And was there a pole camera that is in play in terms of what happened in this incident?
There's I believe 2 cameras mounted at the intersection of Holton Street and Brady Street that are operated by the Milwaukee Police Department.
And in fact, is that operated by the Fusion Center?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So while this investigation is happening, officers are responding to the scene, you're going to be a detective, the scene investigation. Do you learn that the Fusion Center believes that they caught portions of this on camera?
Yes,
And did the Fusion Department at that time take the portions of the incident and copy them for you guys?
they did.
Okay. Just so we're clear, they were just getting the incidents and just getting them to you that night. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now, this is as the investigation is ongoing,
Yes.
attempting to get pictures and descriptions and identify whoever's involved in shooting the victim.
Correct.
Okay.
Can I just ask how much more you have of this witness? We may take a short break at some point.
We can take it now if you want. I gotta get the camera up and ready.
All right, perfect. Why don't we take a 10-minute recess for the jury? Okay, in the gallery, don't move until the jury's been excused, please. Deputy Bond, if you want to show the jury out. We'll take a 10-minute break. Leave your notepads where they are. We'll take 10 or 15 minutes. We'll come back, continue with testimony. Everybody else can remain seated for now. The jury can go out, please. All right, the jury's out. Detective, you can step down, take a short recess, 10 minutes off the record.